Now let's take a look at the practice round 2 assignment. Here we go. For those of you that did not win, again, the winning team would be exempt, but I got one of the winning team members actually submitted the first assignment just to kind of practice and keep in shape in case it has to answer questions in the future. But same team has won the first two. We'll see. Can they do a clean sweep? Yeah, it'd be interesting. So practice round 2. In terms of units, how many did Chester miss out on in the low end? And what I'm asking there again gets back to that actual versus potential. So let's scroll down a little bit here, okay? And I'm just asking about the units. So let's come to the low end in terms of the segment analysis. Here is the total industry unit demand, and that's the number that I want you to use, not what the actual sales were, but what the demand was, because that's how we determine how much Chester missed out on. Okay, and then remember, this gives us a rough idea here. Okay, 21%, and and it looks like they could have had about 8% or something like that. But the actual numbers are down here, and I want you to use the actual numbers, right? Okay, actual market share, what Chester sold versus its potential market share. Okay, so that's going to give you the percentage difference, which you'll take times the demand, and that will give you an idea then how many units Chester missed out on then in terms of what the total demand was for that particular segment. So, question 2. Team Baldwin spent by far the most in plant improvements. What did it invest in? And that's really just the same kind of question. I had that in the first round, but the answer is obviously quite a bit different this time. If we come up and we look at what Team Baldwin spent its money on, $40.8 million, way more, 10 times more almost than Team Digby. And the other team spent nothing or actually received money. I could have asked that question. Why would a team receive money? The answer is they sold capacity and or automation. Okay, it might be a good question in the future, however. So, what did Baldwin invest money? You might have to go back and look at the first round to the second round, but plant improvements can only be a few things. Okay, there's only about 2 things that you can spend money, maybe 3, I guess you could say, I think, and that you could spend money on in terms of plant improvements. So the question shouldn't be that complicated. 3, Andrews and Baldwin earned roughly the same profit. Why did Baldwin have an ROE that was 2.2% higher? Okay, so let's go back and let's look at the profit. We can look at it down here in the income statement, but I got to go up and look at the ROE. What 2 teams am I comparing again? Seems like I'm picking on Andrews and Baldwin. Okay, net profit here for Baldwin was $10,400,000, just a little over $10 million for Andrews. So it's pretty close. Baldwin had way more sales. Okay, but Baldwin ended up with a much higher ROE. Is it Baldwin that ended up? Yeah, with a higher ROE. 16% versus 13.8%. Yeah, that little bit of profit difference, the $400,000, would be a part of that, but it'd be a small part of that because there's another reason that Baldwin had a higher ROE. Now, let's go back. Remember when I was talking about the assignment from the first round, I said earnings per share is earnings divided by the number of shares outstanding. I'm asking you a question about ROE. What's the formula for ROE? Right? ROE is equal to net income divided by owner's equity, right? Okay, so write that down and then look at that and then tell me, why did Baldwin have a higher ROE than did Andrews? Okay, put the actual numbers in there, and then I think you might be able to look at it and figure that out. 4, what will the total industry unit demand be for the high end next round? So what I'm asking for there is simply this. I'm going to scroll down here to the high end segment and take a look. Okay. Low end, here's the high end. Okay. The total industry unit demand for this round was 3,439 or 3.439 million units. And you can keep the zeros off when you're doing your calculations. That's fine. Next year's segment growth rate is 16.5%. So if we apply that 16.5%, what's going to be next year's demand? What's going to be next year's total industry unit demand? Okay. In this case, the sales were the same, but it wouldn't matter. Okay. The other thing that's important, I think the high end was the only one that had any inventory left over, but that wouldn't have any impact on next year's demand. Okay. So I might ask some questions in the future where we'd have to take into account that demand, but in this case, I don't want you to consider any inventory that's left out there. And that was the only segment that had any inventory. So that's it for round 2. Thanks and good luck.